Goeiedag! Good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And here I am in Australia, happily safe from the absolute vagaries of what's going on in South Africa. What a disgusting excuse under the ANC government. I mean, they have just totally screwed that country over. Now, I want to tell you a story. The judicial system in South Africa is completely compromised politically. You've heard of the separation of powers. The separation of powers specifically relates to the judicial system being independent from the political system. That way the politicians need to be accountable. In South Africa, that's not the case. If you think of a cancer virus or cancer that's just gone into your body and it's gone from one organ to another, well, the corrupt political situation has now moved to another organ, which is the judicial system. And I'll be talking about this to someone very, very soon on live stream. It's going to be a fascinating interview, and it's something we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about, because if you have a look at the situation with people like Vicky Momberg, that totally ludicrous judgment which put her behind bars for 2 years is just totally abhorrent, disgusting, deplorable. It is just representative of what's wrong in South Africa. And I'm thinking of calling the judicial system the Vicky Momberg situation, because it just kind of just sums up how corrupted the judicial system is. Now, let's see what we're talking about here. Mabel Jansen was impeached because of allegations. Well, she wasn't actually impeached. She resigned before she was impeached because she knew that the cards were dealt so badly against her. And she's a lady I'm going to be talking to hopefully in the next week or two. But in South Africa, you've got a judge by the name of Matata, who infamously drove into a wall after he had been drinking, but was not impeached, but had to pay a fine of more than 1 million rand. Now, you take Jansen. She basically had to resign because there were totally unsubstantiated allegations that she had used racist comments on her social media page, which she will be discussing when we actually go live, and I think you'll see what a load of BS it is. There was clearly another element involved, which I won't go into right now, but it just demonstrates how politically compromised the South African judiciary is. Okay, let's get into the meat of this case. Matata's case is the closest democratic South Africa has come to impeach a judge, testing the as yet unused provision in the Constitution and the Act that regulates how judges are held accountable for misconduct. One of the reasons the Judicial Service Commission took so long to clear Judge Nkola, as sober as a judge, Matata, of impeachable conduct was because the decision was so intensely debated and contested within the Commission. In the end, there was a very close margin between the majority and the minority view, sources said this week. The JSC announced last Thursday that it had decided not to trigger an impeachment process against the retired High Court judge. Although he was guilty of misconduct, the JSC said, it was not gross misconduct that warranted impeachment. Instead, he was ordered to pay a fine of over 1 million rand. The decision came 18 months after a judicial conduct tribunal, the body tasked with investigating the misconduct complaints against him and reporting to the JSC. They recommended impeachment. Matata's case is the closest democratic South Africa has come to impeaching a judge, testing the as yet unused provisions in the Constitution. Because judges are unelected and are appointed for life with a salary, it is crucial to the constitutional balance that these provisions work. They ensure that judges are protected when unwarranted misconduct allegations are made, but that they are held accountable when warranted allegations are made. Now, again, in the live stream that I'm going to be having in hopefully a couple of weeks' time, you will see how wrong they got it with this lady. In terms of the Constitution and the JSC Act, it is the JSC, not the tribunal, that must decide whether a judge's conduct warrants impeachment, unless a decision is taken to court of review. That will be the end of the matter. Matata is infamous for his drunken car crash into the wall of a Hurlingham home in 2007 and the criminal trial that followed. But the JSC disciplinary process that followed his drunken driving conviction was not about whether a drunk judge or a convicted judge should be allowed to stay on as a judge. The complaints against him were related to the incident, but different. The first was about what he said at the scene in an altercation with the owner of the house, Richard Baird. AfriForum had complained that the judge had been racist because during the back and forth with Baird, Matata made a number of angry comments that AfriForum complained were racist. These included him saying, "No Boer is going to undermine me. This used to be a white man's land, even if they have more land. South Africa belongs to us. We are ruling South Africa." The second complaint was made by Senior Counsel Gerrit Pretorius, SC, and was about the judge's conduct during his criminal trial. Pretorius said Matata relied on a defense he knew to be untrue, a breach of judicial ethics, when, during the trial, his counsel put it to a witness that Matata would be telling the court that he was not drunk. The majority decision was announced by way of a 4-page statement by JSC Chair and Chief Justice Mogoeng. A full record of the majority decision, pulling together written reasons from members of the majority, was finalized on Thursday. There is also a 75-page minority decision detailing why the minority supported the recommendations of the tribunal. The majority report reveals how after prolonged deliberations in June, the JSC remained divided. An ad hoc committee was then set up to consolidate various submissions received by its members. The majority report is therefore made up of the various submissions all agreeing with the ultimate outcome, not to impeach, but with different reasoning. The authors of the majority submissions are not named. Similarly, the authors of the minority view are not named. On Pretorius's complaint about a breach of judicial ethics, the JSC's statement said Pretorius's complaint could not stand. This was because it had transpired that Isaac Smuts, SC, who was at the time a member of the JSC, had approached Pretorius asking him to lodge the complaint as the AfriForum complaint was seemingly insufficient to secure a guilty finding. The statement said, Smuts had not disclosed that he was the originator or instigator of the complaint, the JSC said. Advocate Smuts SC sat in and actually chaired the deliberations of the JSC, which resolved to refer the matter to the JCT, or Judicial Conduct Tribunal. He had a clear obligation to disclose and recuse himself, the statement read. The conduct breached the legal principle that protected against bias or perceived bias, said the JSC. In its view, the minority said that Smuts had not acted on behalf of the JSC when he requested Pretorius to lodge a complaint, Though he was part of the JSC meeting that decided the complaint warranted a tribunal, he was not a member of the Judicial Conduct Committee or the tribunal. Smuts SC therefore played a limited role. It is unlikely that this tainted the fairness of the entire decision-making process. The minority said that advocates and judges, where they are accused persons in a criminal trial, enjoy the fair trial rights of ordinary citizens. It is therefore arguable that Judge Matata's conduct in this regard was improper, but did not rise to the level of gross misconduct. Ultimately, however, the minority view that the judge was guilty of gross misconduct was based on both complaints. On Afroforum's complaint, the majority found that the conduct that led to his criminal trial and conviction amounted to misconduct. Specifically, the statement said, the racially loaded utterances made by Judge Matata were unbecoming of a judge. Notwithstanding the majority's acceptance that his responsibility was diminished by his own proven intoxication and provocation in the form of the alleged use of the K word used by the owner of the house. The minority said that though the trial found there may have been provocation by Baird, the record did not reflect what was actually said. Matata had also not raised provocation at any stage prior to his testimony at the tribunal, said the minority. In looking into the severity of Judge Matata's remarks, the minority said the JSC should not be mechanical and had to be guided by context. In particular, South Africa's history when alleged racist statements were made by black persons towards a white person. This to me is really the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. Because, to keep it really simple, a black person can say the most racist things to a white person and it's okay. But if a white person uses a K word against a black person, it's crimen injuria and they can land up behind bars. I mean, I'm trying to keep it really simple, but that's how it is in South Africa today. Just understand that. This is not to say in principle or necessary there cannot be instances of discrimination or racism directed against a white person by a black person. The point is more nuanced. South Africa's history and the prevailing race dynamics and power imbalances mean that it would be too simplistic and insensitive to treat all incidents of alleged racism alike, said the minority. It found, however, the reasonable inference is that Judge Matata tried to use his position as a judge and racial issues to obtain more favorable treatment. Well, why are we surprised? Judges are required to be better than this and to refrain from this kind of behavior, given their unique role and responsibilities in South Africa's constitutional democracy. Now, I'm going to be starting to put the spotlight on another judge by the name of Shlope in the coming weeks, because this man is a complete and utter disgrace. And he is like the poster boy of why the justice system in South Africa is going completely pear-shaped and is completely compromised by politics. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.